go. Ah, I failed. So no. Recorded that. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Baby, welcome to the party.
Thank you everyone who was here for the segment. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Yeah, really a goated for that. Oh, there's. Oh, yeah. That works too. Prince of Persia. Thank you guys for pulling up. Mischievous, thank you for the biddies. Alright. Calibrations. Alright. Subtitles, background. Yeah, we could do a little semi-trans. You know, I like to be different. We do the alternative. Like the new add-on, Immortal Prosperity Bird. Oh, first we gotta go Ubisoft Connect. We gotta see what they got us, because I got points. I want to use them for the rewards. Ooh, young Sarah. All right, first we gotta get the fan kit. Go back, and we got the young Sargon. Oh, that's it. All they give us. Let's see what challenges they got. Couple experience. Sexy coins, stuff like that, yada yada. Oh, they also gave us some stuff. They gave us a guide. What else they gave us? So, waiting for it to download. Okay, check it out. Oh, actually, I should have moved it there. Let me move it to. Let's put in Twitch. All right, a review guide. All right, so introduction letter. The senior producer, Abdelhak Algas from Mornia Radi, from Jean Christophe Alessandri, the game director, the senior art director. They're saying that they're proud of making the game, and a good game. It's $49.99. If you pre-order now, you get the Warrior Within outfit, which is really dope. Well, we got the deluxe. Deluxe comes with the Prosperity Bird amulet, with the Immortals outfit, and the digital adventure guide. That's what we have.
Master Wayne, incoming ad. Please wait momentarily, as some of our wikidans may not hear you. Thank you, Wakandans, for your patience.
So as you know, I'm playing on the Xbox Series X. We cannot go past the end of the main quest, the Darkest of Souls, the fight against the boss. All right. So you know we activated the key, whatever, blah blah. Blah. Playing on Series X. You know they have the UI, polish and various improvements, updated audio mix, general bug fixes, some trophies, and it supports up to 120 FPS. It's the improved balancing of bosses and enemy fights, improved guided mode experience. Starting off with the story, let's give you a quick thing. Prince of Persia Sands of Time. Sands of Time is good. Sands of Time is the very first. I remember that one. I think the second one was my favorite because he was like more dark and like he was like he'd been through it. He was like a war vet by then. That's what I liked. How do I get it to control? Hmm, it's actually pretty cool. Let's see. Never used that before either. Hmm, some cool stuff in here. Okay. Look how easy I get distracted. What the hell am I doing? I'm trying to add something because I saw that you can do your scenes and everything from your stupid. I'll have to find out later. All right, let's get into it. Right. So Prince of Persia returns with a vibrant story. In the group of dangers, the kingdom of Persia is under the protection of a group of elite warriors called the Immortals, led by Varam. The 7 brothers and sisters in arms have fought the many battles, have fought and won many battles together in the name of Thymris, Queen of Persia. One day, the queen's son, Prince Ghazan, is abducted. The queen summons the Immortals on a rescue mission that leads them to Mount Kof and its ancient city. It is a mysterious land and home of the Simurgh, which is god of time and knowledge and protector of the Persians. But the Simurgh has been missing for the past 30 years. Now something is wrong with the place. Time doesn't follow its natural flow. Timelines get intertwined as all living beings seem to be cursed by temporal anomalies. So you play as Sargon, the youngest of the Immortals, gifted with extraordinary agility and dual sword combat talent. His potential will lead him into acquiring supernatural abilities and time powers in Mount Quaff. In the role of this relentless prodigy, you embark on an ambitious adventure to restore the world's balance and save the prince. While exploring Mount Quaff, the strong bonds between the Immortals will be put to test by the curse, eventually leading Sargon to face some of those he once considered his family. Yet the clock is ticking, and you must find Prince Ghazan, defeating any dangers to overcome every obstacle that might cross your path. Get ready to unravel the mysteries of this mythical place. So it's 20 to 25 hours of main path, 13 district biomes, 6 powerful time powers, 9 bosses encounters, and 65 plus unique enemies, and 9 engaging side quests. All right, so now you got the gist of all the good stuff. Perfect recall. You take screenshots, placing them on the map right where you take them. You can access your snapshots at any time. That's cool. Many souls inhabit Mount Quaff, and some will ask for your help. To accept or decline, it's all good and fine, though the words are always tempting. Then need a boost. Check out the amulet bling. Increasing damage output to firing more arrows than you take to keep track of. Mix and match amulets for endless possibilities. Okay, everything's good here. All right, let's start. Exploration: explore the world with minimal map information. Choose the mode to discover the world for yourself. Guided and available in block paths or marked. This is mode for easier navigation. Let's do that one. Let's go hero. I don't want to do immortal yet. So it's rookie, warrior, and hero. So let's do hero. When a hero comes along. The strength to carry on.
Had passed. Decades without rain. The once fertile plains of Fars had become as barren as the Lut Salt Desert.
Ooh.
A few arrow shots from Persepolis. The Kushans, bloodthirsty warriors from the east, were attacking Persia. Persian soldiers.
Oh, also we have a new we still have the same goal, you know, 100 subs goal. Next goal was 1400. We're only what 79 away from 1400.
His men fell one
What
by one.
1400 wait, Condon, that's crazy. We're at 13 right now. That's wild.
In battle.
But we do have a new community goal too.
For you, Vishka, the Kushan general,
If you want me to wear
victory was certain. Until history took a different turn. The 7 immortals were the best warriors in the kingdom.
ooh.
One of them would become a legend.
Ooh, I wonder who. Whoa. That's us. Look at the melanin. And look at the homies.
Onward, immortals.
What happened to this one?
Anahita.
Don't
Anahita.
worry about me. I'll be fine. Save Persepolis. I trained you for this. I will go help my wounded warriors.
Let's go, Sargon.
Okay, we can just jump. No double jump. Attack. We slide underneath? No, no slide underneath yet. Okay. Oh, okay. You hold it. You hold A, jump higher. Ah, there's the slide button.
Be on your guard. It's the reservoir.
Ooh, you see that? Hmm. So if you hold it, it gives you more speed. Oh, there you can go back. Okay.
None of you will leave here alive.
Thank you. Oh, you can parry too. They only give you one. Dang it. What? That was on me. I blocked that. What?
Hey, who's having all the fun?
Oh, right.
When Elias cleared a path. Follow me, Sargon. Rain of fire! Keep running, Sargon!
We must eliminate those Kushan archers.
Leave it to me!
Oh, so I don't even have to. I don't have to slide if I just hold it. I ain't blocked that?
Get out of your way so you can catch up!
Okay. All right. I'm moving. I couldn't block that? He's dead. That's wild. I'm about to die.
Watch out, Sargon!
Record presented a special 100 per trigger a vengeful counter. Ooh, that was cool.
That general must not be far.
Varam.
Let me handle him.
Take this. You might need it.
Item acquired. Get that potion. Hey, let's go. Be powerful now. Or Sargon's necklace, taken in a child by General Anita. Setting high standards, she taught him the art of war and made him the fighter he is today. On his 8th birthday, Sargon Suda gave him a necklace bearing an amulet to ward off evil spirits. Alright, everything is oh, unknown. Okay, so we get some more stuff. What the heck was that?
Viska, you can't hide from me.
Ooh, you see that charge? Now we can charge attacks now too? Nice. Oh! Bro, his own.
The Russia bar, was it? Your life ends here.
Not if you're
Bruh.
When I catch you, Ricky. When I catch you, Ricky. Ricky, when I catch you, Ricky.
Our first balls.
Ricky, when I catch you, Ricky. Ricky, when...
I died. I pressed the. They're wilding. Come on, bro. They're doing me dirty. I pressed the button to parry it. Okay, see? Ooh! That was a good kick. Come on, bro. I pressed the button to parry it. What's going on, bro? I pressed it. I guess you can't. I'm pressing the button. What is going on, bro? I guess you can't block those? Oh my god, what is going on, bro? Try it again. Take them off. I messed that one up. Ah, I thought I pressed it! Alright, round three. I messed that one up. try that one more time. Now we got more health this time though too. Press the freaking button, bro. I didn't press it that time. I pressed it late. I pressed it late. My fault again. I didn't press it at all that time. There we go. Woo! Oh, slide is the dodge too? Okay.
Has come for you.
Huh? Why am I adding this one?
The mighty Simurgh, protector of Persia, has long left. But should our enemies try to take advantage of the situation, they will soon find that the kingdom's bravest warriors will be their undoing. "30 years ago, the divine bird Simurgh graced my shoulder, thus showing his trust in me to guide our people. Today, I, Tomiris, Queen of Persia, praise your valor and loyalty, immortals. Varum, you and your forces have once again saved the kingdom.
Hassan, Prince of Persia.
Step forward, Sargon. Word of your deeds precedes you through the streets of Persepolis. Accept this royal sash as a token of our gratitude.
Sargon, the Rashabar, the black wind that destroys all in his path.
Hey, let's go.
I didn't choose that name.
The Black Wind. Hey, why they call me that, huh? It's because of the darkness of my skin?
Need not worry. I do not attach any importance to these superstitions. The winds also carry the seeds of future harvests. I am truly glad to meet you, Sargon.
But hey, that's cool. You got to play the demo. Mike. Ooh.
Thank you, Prince Hassan.
Let us drop the honorifics. And may we get to know—
I'm mad it took me 3 tries to beat the tutorial boss, bro. But yeah, I should have did the highness. Ooh, royal sash. We get to wear that now. Okay, go around and talk to people. Okay.
Your name brings hope to Persia and is feared by the enemy. What a reputation.
Maybe.
I didn't ask to be prince either, but fate has spoken and I must accept it.
Yeah, I didn't fight that, but the combos is crazy on here. Oh, okay.
Varum, we're somehow the only immortals left here.
The others are probably letting loose up on the roof. Not all warriors belong in the throne room. Join them, Sargon. I'll be along soon enough.
Alright, we're gonna go join the homies up on top.
We owe this victory to you, Rashabar. I am glad you're on our side.
Adashi.
Just watch out. The Rashabar is said to sow ruin and destruction.
I do not believe such stories. I've seen your That is all that mattered.
Long live the House of Tamiris.
Long live the House of Tamiris. Look at him. He's throwing his fire though. Nice.
I'm proud of you, Sargon.
I defeated Uvishka, and we saved Persepolis.
Did we? Thousands died on the battlefield.
A lot of people died.
We're out of supplies. Persia is barely surviving. The Kashan will surely come back. Would you call that a victory?
I let my pride go to my head.
A warrior's journey is always one in progress. And when there's nothing left in one's path, the warrior wanders.
What is at the end of my blade?
What is the...
I know.
Found an answer yet?
I won't figure that out tonight. Maybe a drink will help.
Thanks, but I have other matters to attend to.
Oh, excuse me. I don't want to drink with me.
You have what it takes to become one of the greatest, Sargon.
I know. Just watch me.
And listen to Varum. He will keep you on the right path.
All right. Thank you, teacher. Yeah, I have a... Oh. So much. Jesus. All right, so we got through the first part. Again. There we go.
Master Wayne, incoming ad. Please wait momentarily as some of our Wakandans may not hear you. Thank you, Wakandans, for your patience.
Found it. Found what I wanted to do. Oh. I'll give it. Oh, what the hell did I put? Now, do that. Yes. Fucking did it. Which one? Yes. Oh, I love this. Okay. And now I can have more room to do my shit. Now all my sounds are in one area. Oh, whoops. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. Ugh. But like I said, I do appreciate y'all coming through, showing the love for real. I got caught up. I got caught up doing my thing again. There we go. All right. And sound bites. That. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom. Just volume. Volume's up. Goes up. Okay. All right. I set it up how I want it. Nice. Now I don't have to worry about jumping back and forth. Now Oh, I gotta move it up. All right. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. All right, let's go.
Long live the...
Okay, he's saying the same thing. All right. Sorry about that. I was tinkering with the new one. Remember, you can only go left and right.
I'm telling you, Prince Hassan may be my son.
Oh, that's nonsense. He looks nothing like you.
He took everything from his mom, that's all.
He's stupid.
Alright, you are really not her type.
Whose type?
Ah, the kid finally decided to join us.
The hero of the day. The Queen's new protege.
So, you're mingling with aristocracy now, eh?
I gotta add all that too. And it match shit to my stuff.
Or trading in your swords to become a satrap.
Laugh all you want. Who eliminated a general tonight, huh?
Don't encourage them, Sargon.
Oh, Neath is tall.
It just means you've impressed them. Yeah, he's right. You were impressed.
If you want to talk more quietly, I won't be far. So, will you still remember us now that you're famous?
I'm trying to stay humble. And find what is at the end of my blade.
Oh, sounds like Anahita set your head straight.
Sort of. In her own way.
You know, it is amazing what you did. You should be proud of yourself. We all are.
One of our own eliminated the Kashan general. Outstanding.
Kashan is also in the in Berserk. If y'all read Berserk, Kashan's in it too, and they're really associated with demons.
You ragtag bunch of immortals. You have always been destined for greatness.
And with Sargon's bravery, that's another one for the history book.
We made the city safe. The people are at peace again.
This is cute, but can we go celebrate now? Our usual haunt has food and drinks on the house. Varum, you're coming with us.
I wouldn't miss it.
Varum! Prince Hassan has been kidnapped.
What?
Kidnappers? They must still be in the palace.
Take the lead, Sargon. You may be the last to have spoken to him. We must find Prince Hassan.
Man's like a spider. Why you do all that when you can just walk on the other way? See, doing the most. Caius and Layla. I didn't know they named them. Look, low key. One of the blades are called Layla. Doral sash.
Anahita's guards.
Oh, god dang it. Whoa, what is going on? What? This nigga just went Super Saiyan? Athra Surge. Athra is the sacred energy that burns in every living being. In battle, the greatest warriors can control their Athra, intensifying its light to extraordinary exponential abilities. Sargon's attacks generate Athra while taking damage dispels it. The build up of Athra is shown in the gauge at the bottom of the screen. Once the gauge is full, Athra Surge becomes available. There are different ones that consume different amounts of Athra. Hold LT and X to use the first one. Ooh! Oh, come on, bro.
Anahita. What is this?
Anahita's the one who stole him?
Planning on killing you, Sargon. Stay out of this.
Whoa, what is going on?
Out of my way.
We gotta fight our own master? Oh nah, she's doing.
What the hell was that?
Still a child.
Don't step on it. Because it's a side scroll, he can't even go past.
I'll find you, Hassan.
Bro, you awaken the beast.
That sword swinging wasn't just for flair.
Brought a whole demon out, bro. God damn! We just started. I dodged though. My fault. I'm walling. I did it first. Let's go. I gotta get used to being able to press both of them now.
Sargon, who was it? I thought I recognized Anahita. Is she involved?
Yes, she is. Without a doubt.
Baram, gather your forces. You are to leave for Mount Kaf at once in search of Prince Hassan.
Yes.
Ardashir and his soldiers are already on the way. We need all the help we can get.
We will not fail you, Your Majesty.
Bring him back. Bring back my son.
Yes, ma'am.
goat citadel. Anahita took Prince Hassan beyond these gates.
I can't fathom why Anahita would do such a thing.
This is wild.
Sargon, you know her best.
It doesn't make sense. She has always been loyal.
She wants to seize power for herself.
How come we the only one who's like bareback?
What do you
Except for the big dude.
The Simorg may have disappeared.
He just want to show off his build, huh?
Used to live on Mount Carve, and perhaps still does.
It has always been the Simorg who appoints future
So
kings.
we're gonna put on the immortal armor. We're part of the immortals.
Anahita probably wishes to receive the Simorg's blessing.
But why kidnap Prince Hassan?
Probably gonna sacrifice him.
The gates to the Simorg temple only open for members of the royal family.
Yeah,
She has lost her mind. She will never get the Simorg's blessing like that.
We can't be certain. After all, the Simorg may be weakened.
One thing's for sure. Prince Hassan is in danger. She will kill him once she has no need for him.
Immortals, follow me. Let's help Ardashir and find Prince Hassan.
Wait for me here. Don't worry. I won't be long.
lies. We're about to be in there for 20 hours. For him, 20 hours. For us, days. Oh, I'm about to slash him.
Been here before?
No, but I've read about it. This place was once the site of King Darius's palace.
Oh, wow.
Religion, medicine, astrology, geometry, algebra. All knowledge was gathered here, accessible to all. Mount Kaf was home to a
Yeah,
great
thank you to
citadel of
Ubisoft
wisdom.
for allowing us access to early access for Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown.
No one survived to tell the tale. And to think that Prince Hassan is caught up in all this. Who knows what might await us?
Who knows what we are? He's got a big sword too.
Might await us.
What is this sorcery?
Whoa.
Warrior, not a seer.
Frozen as it falls.
As if time had stopped.
Sands of Time. Oh, it broke something. How do I get in there? Huh. There's a way down there later on.
Stay sharp. Prince Hassan can't be far now.
Something is not right here. We must proceed with caution.
Sure, Menelaus. You can scurry from shadow to shadow like frightened vermin.
I'm serious, Orod. There's a strange presence here.
I can feel it too. There's only one way to find out.
Let's go then.
Barum, this is Azad, one of Ardashir's men.
Dang, got cut up.
Long dead, judging by the rot.
How is that possible? They left not long before us.
What the heck?
We are not welcome here.
Stay on your guard. We will find the Prince and Anahita.
We go east.
We don't go anywhere. You'll only slow me down. You're on your own.
Oh. The heck is that? Bringing back the dead? Bring it. Huh, give me some shards. All dead. Huh? Don't let me get through. Probably need a certain move or something. Ooh, fire! All right, explore the ancient city to find Gathan. Got some time crystals. Oh, here we go, skins. Got the young. Now we got the immortal. Oh, whoop. Done. Okay, we'll rock the immortal for now. We got one move. This is Orange Surge. Take 25 seconds for it to come through. Rush towards the enemy with a piercing strike that shatters all defenses. Can only trigger from the ground. Oh, we didn't get the bird yet. You change your weapons too? Mighty Samrag, a bird of knowledge. The Samrag holds the key to all truth. He is the guardian of time and destiny, keeping everything in balance. Infinite power resides in his feathers. Protective flight brings peace and prosperity to Persia. Ooh, that power pack with the tier 2. with the tier 2. Appreciate you, Pack, for the tier 2. Thank you, thank you. Pack, I got my Stream Deck Plus, so I'm gonna put all audio on this one. And it also gives me the power to switch the profiles on each one. So I can press this and it'll move me over to that other thing. Oh, also look, watch this. I didn't know this. There's a thing where I can do with the clip here, right? Very sexy. Say I clip this, right? I'm gonna do let me fight somebody and then I'm gonna clip it, and then I have an option to show the last clip. Never seen that before. Dang it. Oh my god, I died? What the heck? That's wild. I gotta start all the way from this beginning again. Oh my god. Watch that. All right. That was cool. All right, so.
Well, that's what I get for betting it all on black.
You stupid Pack. Now, let me see. I don't know if this is gonna work. Ah, so I press the button. It takes me to the clip. Dang it. And then I can publish it. Died? What the heck? Not all the way from this. Watch that. All right. Okay, so what it does is like it will take me to the button I pressed, which is the last clip. This button right here, right? It takes you to a page where you do the clip. Cool. All right. Calm down, bro. You don't have to sit down. Can't get through the door.
Master Wayne, incoming ad. Please wait momentarily as some of our Wakendans may not hear you. Thank you, Wakandans, for your patience.
Man, I died from that like the beginning, bro. That's wild, bro. No. Dang it. Almost made it. All right, let's go down. Got your ass. Huh, I am. Huh. Can't open this door. You step. Great ball, go. Great ball, go.
Throwing great ball master way.
Oh! I pressed the. Oh my god, bro. What? I pressed the button. I didn't even press the button to do that. Oh, but I did get healed. I got help at the time, so escaped. Wait, no, I'm gonna go this way. I'm not about to die again, bro. Oh, you son of a bitch. Protection and justice in the measure of all things, from the plains of Fars to the Nile Valley. The protector shadow of his majestic flight tempers the warmth lavished by Mithra. The ears of wheat, barley, H-lops, and corn turn ripe without drying out. The harvests are prosperous and feed the people. As long as wings grace the Persian sky, happiness and prosperity will reign. Nice. What's this? Oh, save point. Nice. What the heck?
What are you doing here? This place is too dangerous for a child.
Don't worry about me. I know the Citadel better than anyone. I know every step. I even go where others can't. I've chatted and argued with every creature, and I know every tree here.
Like this one. Are they all like this?
These trees are special. They're called Wak-Wak.
Wak-Wak.
They have the purest of Athra. So, stand beneath its leaves to restore your energy. There are many Wak-Wak trees throughout Mount Calf.
Tell me, you say you know all here. We're in search of soldiers like us. Our prince is being led by a general. Have you seen anyone like that?
A prince? There hasn't been a prince here in so long. I've only seen you. Well, if you've lost your friend in Mount Calf, then you're going to need an Eye of the Wanderer.
What's that?
It's a very rare, very ancient thing. Here, for you.
Eye of the Wanderer. A glass that gives us the bearer the ability to map all of Mount Calf. Nice. Arrows and potions. What's this? That's where I died. Can you show me all my deaths? Okay, unexplored path. Last death, one-way blocker. Respawn. Go.
Here, I might as well show you a neat trick to remember places on Mount Calf.
Ooh, memory shards allows you to capture images of Mount Calf. Let's say it's full of unreachable passages and treasures, which can access once you've found new abilities. Trying to memorize all these places. Use memory shards to capture an image of the environment, which will automatically be saved on your map. Don't forget to capture images of your surrounding regularly to add them to the map and come back to it later. Okay.
Thank you, miss. I don't know your name.
My name is Faraba.
Faraba.
Sargon, warrior of the immortal.
Oh, doesn't that sound impressive? Well, Sargon, I'm sure we'll meet again in Mount Calf. I'll share my discoveries with you when I can. But I'll need time crystals to do it.
Time crystals?
Welcome to Mount Calf.
That's your man. That was cool. I like that. Let's save that. What? It failed. What the hell? I was trying to see if I can jump up here. Let me. What the heck? Get my health back. Come on, bruh. Literally, the littlest attack kills me. Vengeance! I died so early, yo. I gotta move quick. That's it? What the heck is that? Didn't give it a chance. Oh, brought me back here. Oh, it came back! Dang it. How much to get back up? Yeah, I gotta go all the way around. Like I said, I do appreciate everybody coming through, showing the love. We're gonna have to continue this party on Saturday. I pressed. Oh my gosh. Oh. I see, I gotta go up. What is that? Whoa. All I know was the hit. Hey, what's over here? Ooh. I don't know if I should go this way. Maybe I should go this way first.
Sargon! Up here!
I had the prince. Yeah, definitely not making that jump. Definitely not making it.
Take the prince to the Simor gate.
Anahita! Don't you dare harm him!
If you want Prince Hassan back, come and get him!
Anahita!
Anahita!
Anahita was here. She's taking Hassan to the Simor.
Then Artaban may be right about her wanting the throne. That thing above us. What is it?
I'm not sure. But to get to Hassan and Anahita, we must destroy it.
From this distance? That's not possible for Ide. Maybe Menelaus can help here. Varum sent him to the east to investigate the
I'll try to find him.
I'll look for another way.
Alright, Boston. Alright, well, the arrow's right there. I don't know what that is over there. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying. Try not to die again. Huh. Can't open that. Oh. Let's see what's down here first. Okay. Crystal. Oh, got him. Sit down. Oh, that's just the other way to the top. Oh, that's so close. Oh! Ooh. What is it? Ah, so you can put your stuff on the Waka Waka tree. Oh. No! Damn. Do we get to keep it though? Let me see. You do get to keep that on there. It's alright. Oh, you can put on both of them. Nice. All right, so now we have. Thank you, but I can't reach that. No point. Let me find another Waka Waka tree. What am I supposed to do? Oh, a tree's probably over here. Whoa, what's that? Huh?
What brings you here, traveler?
My allies and I are
The mage.
a traitor.
Then you and the others are trapped here too. Mount Carf has seen its share of travelers. Many are lost. Beware, warrior. Death and misery roam the citadel.
I've seen my share of death.
Even the most determined of warriors must be prepared. Take its unique properties will aid you. Just know that each one is precious and can only be changed at a whack.
Talk about the army and that.
Make good use of.
So I increase max health, yes. Additional boosts can only be regenerated at Wakwa trees. Equip your elements at the Wakwa tree. Alright. Thank you.
Welcome. Well,
oh, you could buy stuff. I don't know what that is. Ooh. Definitely buy that. Now we got an extra one. Want to put on the Wakwa tree. Alright. What else we can do? Let's upgrade. I don't have enough of that. Ooh, increase the potions. Okay, we need that. What is this summer tree petal? Petal from the summer trees. Okay. Ah! Why did I just drink that?
welcome. These amulets are very.
There are magi in Persepolis.
Those in Mount Carf possess. The longer Mount Carf, the more we'll all forget our knowledge.
Okay, I get it to the next walk tree. That one here? Oh yeah. There we go. Yeah, put this one on. All right. Wait, can we buy more amulets from her?
Welcome.
No, you can only buy one at a time, and then we need to get the additional healing potion first, and then the proficiency. So that's what we're gonna work on. What's this? They won't let me work with that yet. I think that might be the sands. Give us our powers. I wish you could like hit from that side so you can open stuff. Got more health though, that's good.
Artaban.
Sargon. Varum saw Anahita's guards, and as for me, I cannot continue. Time flows differently here. My mind is playing tricks on me. I can't.
Artaban. Thank you for being.
I'm not giving in just yet. After all, if Anahita really has changed loyalties.
Ooh. Do training. Does that help? Oh, that's a good combo.
Master Wayne, incoming ad. Please wait momentarily
Ooh,
as
look,
some
you
of our
get-
Wakandans may not hear you. Thank you, Wakandans, for your patience.
100, 200, 300, 400, 450. We do these. Get a quick thing, and then we'll call it a night here.
Practice does get in position.
Be back on Saturday. I might play this and Mirage. Light work. Very well, Bimmer.
Since you propel your opponent away with... At close range, the sweep is good.
Oh, I didn't know you could sleep. Did not know that one. Okay. That's cool. Learn something new.
Airborne enemy cannot retaliate until
perfect to cripple agile.
Now we're gonna hit them up.
That you move if you want to keep your distance. This doesn't suit your style, but
precaution. My point.
Okay, got 50 on that one. Next one, launches.
Do you remember what I told you?
An airborne enemy cannot retaliate until they're back on their feet.
Let's go over your upward attack. Use them to hit targets above you. A word of warning. Using the same upward... You can also use an upward attack in a fighting combination.
Nice.
Following through with your attack. Remember, Rashaba. Now then, the forward slide.
Okay.
Closing the dish.
Now let's combine everything.
That's cool. I never did that. I didn't know you can hold it and then you'll go up with them. Alright. Aerial attacks.
Now for a specialty.
I'm always ready.
You know about mid-air combination.
Go.
You cannot chain attacks after this move. Alternatively,
Scyther! I missed the Scyther, damn.
you can.
Making you higher. We launch them. Nice.
This technique is should you see a
Slam him down again. Nice. Alright, charge attacks.
Sargon.
Athra as much as weapon.
Precisely. Athra can be channeled. Athra charged attacks have several advantages.
I like that you can, if your back is turned, you can shoot it even though you turned around. I like that.
Long way since I now then.
Right in between.
So those do break through it.
And if they do not break, are you also?
I've practiced.
Cool. Nice.
Perfect. With proper
reactions.
No fighting style rules. Knowing your opponent's take massive. West, you must.
Are there even worse enemies out there?
Not showing signs of pain, and careful what you wish for. And one more thing, some can perish.
I see more and more
But you know that's.
Okay. Almost have enough for extra potion.
A warrior.
It's not the first time.
The goal is your dodges.
I didn't know I can dodge back while do my attacks. That would help so much. Whoa. I didn't know I could do backflips. What?
Parrying. Not all at parrying and dodging are not unique to us, Sargon.
Listen. Almost done.
You already know this. After a successful...
I dodged too far. Dang, I pressed it too much times. There we go. Time.
I could do this all.
Nice.
Attack.
I pressed it. Wait. What the heck? I pressed it. It's not going through. Oh. Because I was doing it the wrong way. I'm like, I'm doing that though. I'm like, why is it not going through? Now I get it.
Careful against fast.
Only if they can match.
You can kick what?
And to make a loud.
Sprinting.
Okay. Almost done.
Artaban.
The art of... Get ready to parry. As you may have did.
Yeah, you can parry. Dang it. You parry back stuff. I think it's gonna show you advanced parrying. Opportunities. Like an execution one. I like the parrying in this though. The parrying is really fun. You just got, you can.
Enemies are able.
Actually, I named them downburst count.
Whatever you say.
I wish I could parry any attack.
You know that's impossible. Fortunately, your senses are sharp.
This isn't the whole day's.
There is a lesson in every fail. That's what you get when you miss a parry. Getting hit this way is particularly.
Well,
I was supposed to miss. That's crazy.
Athra, the everlasting blaze. It's the flame that gives its presence and blessing extend through. By discerning the cadence of Athra's flow, you can better navigate exercises and cures. Athra bestows stability and Sargon. Your Athra burns brighter with each successful technique.
Athra surge.
Get in position. Conversely, riskier action, try to parry the... Keep in mind that dodging is safer, but it will not build up Athra.
Parrying
Let's
can.
talk about the Athra Surge. It's useful for break. Every warrior prides themselves on developing their ultimate technique. Keep in mind that Athra ignites the soul. Grace harnessing. Fine work. You know, if you learn new moves, perhaps we can figure out...
Oh! Voya's wave. Release a wave. Unfurling wave of Athra that pushes back the enemy. The end of the move can be interrupted, can be triggered from the ground or the air. Equip your Athra soldiers at the Walker Tree. Oh, nice. So can I equip both of them? They're both equipped, right?
Welcome.
Now we have enough to buy. I think we have enough to buy that too. Upgraded. On fire pickle, we have enough for that too. We can add that onto there as well. Alright, we got 4 things. Oh, I think I like the wave better than the... Oh no, we can do both of them. So we can choose, I guess. I thought I felt something. We can choose between both of them, so that's cool. We got the Value's Wave and the Varathgan's Smite. Do the ground or air is good to have. Alright, so I think we'll stop there for now. I appreciate everybody coming through, showing the love. Thank you guys. We got too far, that's good. It's fast travel. Wait, fast travel where? Oh, it's up there. Oh, that's what this is. But we can't get in there yet. Can't get in there yet. Okay.